Greetings and salutations once again from inside the palatial, the beautiful, the always welcoming Hoagies and Hops and Chili Water. My name is Jake Query. That is Greg Rakestraw. It is not Darren Schultz. That means this is the best show so far that we've had in quite some time. And I will confess this. Now, it's going to require me, Greg, to take off the headsets, okay? But little bit, my eyes probably a little bit blurry, right?
Yeah.
A little bit baggy. That's not because I had some sort of wild bender last night, but rather because I was up until nearly 3 o'clock in the morning. We taped this, by the way, on Tuesday mornings. I was up very late because we are now into week number 8. Week number 8, I'm a diehard fan. Hang on.
Okay. We have props here.
Yes.
I need a tap dance for him. Okay, I've assumed that this was the. I was surprised there was not a Blue Jays hat at some point in time involved here.
Listen, last night the Toronto Blue Jays, Game 3, Classic World Series game, 16 innings. Dodgers win at 6-5. Blue Jays had numerous opportunity to try to get it done. They also foolishly pitched to Shohei Ohtani before they finally decided that, you know what, Shohei Ohtani, I should say, before they said, you know what, enough. We're never pitching to this guy again, but they went one too many times to the well. He hit a home run that would have, otherwise, the Blue Jays would have won probably by a score of 5-4. But nonetheless, great World Series, and I'm all in, Greg. And so as a fan, I continue to support despite disappointment. But the series is over.
You saw the mural that is right behind us, the Phillypolis that Christine and the folks at Hoagies and Hops have kind of adopted. How do we work Toronto or Ontario or Canada into Phillypolis?
Very easy.
Yeah.
Very easy. Thank you for asking. The Toronto Blue Jays, where I've been a diehard fan now for 8 weeks, but that fandom began in the early 80s with Lloyd Mosby and George Ding Dong Bell and Jesse Barfield and that group. And my fandom really peaked, but I was very torn in 1993 when Joe Carter hit his walk-off home run against the Philadelphia Phillies, because even though I wanted the Blue Jays to win with my diehard Blue Jay fandom, I had a great love and respect for Philadelphia because I love the pride and passion people in Philly have for home, and I love the fact that that pride and passion is shared by people right here in my hometown of Indianapolis. So I felt that bond. I understood that connection people Philly had, and that's why I love Hoagies and Hops, because Christina has married the two together here by bringing her hometown and bringing it to Indianapolis and saying, you know what, this is my new hometown, but I'm bringing my old hometown because we all have the same spirit. So
at the risk of pushing back even further the talk of the Colts being the best team in the National Football League, the Pacers being hit by some sort of biblical plague from an injury standpoint, Indiana maybe being the best college football team, I will go ahead and steer into the skid here. I actually know the story as to why you are a Calgary Flames fan.
That's right.
And it's a cool story. Why are you a Blue Jays fan now for the last 8 weeks?
Okay, when I was a kid,
yeah.
Greg, did you collect baseball cards?
Absolutely. Okay. I have 30,000 of them.
So
yes.
I collected baseball cards as a kid. I would go to the baseball card shows, the whole deal.
Yeah.
One of the big things to be done in the early to mid-'80s was you would take your baseball card of your favorite player. Give me a player from the 80s, a random player.
Do you want a Blue Jays player?
Any player.
Rance Mullinax.
Rance Mullinax. Okay, so you say, okay, I'm going to send a baseball card to Rance Mullinax. I am a big fan. Could you please sign my card and send it back?
Sure.
And you would enclose a self-addressed stamped envelope.
SASD, yes.
So all they had to do was sign it, put it in the envelope, send it back. Young Jake Query, one of the few times in my life where I ever had any sort of intelligence about me, I said, you know what? A self-addressed stamped envelope to the Toronto Blue Jays or the Montreal Expos would not work because a U.S. stamp would not have any weight in the Canadian postal system. So we had family friends that were from that would go and visit Toronto, and I said, can you bring me back a roll of Canadian stamps? I had one roll of stamps. I had to pick one of the two teams. I picked Toronto. Sent all of my Blue Jays cards to the Blue Jays with a self-addressed stamped envelope and pointed out in my letter, it is a Canadian stamp, so there is no fear in you putting this card back into an envelope and sending it back to me. 17 players of the Toronto Blue Jays sent me a signed card back.
That's awesome.
And so therefore I was a Blue Jays fan.
Which means you've been doing this for longer than 8 weeks.
That is correct,
That's pretty
yes.
cool. Now, at the time when you did this, since I have a ballpark idea of your age, actually I know exactly your age, were the Expos the parent club of the Indianapolis Indians at the time?
Yes, as a matter of fact.
So in theory, you could have just had Expos players sign the card when they were playing at Busch Stadium.
Yes, but my Expo fandom was taken care of by the fact that Roy Johnson, who had a cup of coffee in the major leagues, gave me his wristband during a baseball clinic at Allisonville Little League in 1984 before making it up, and I still have a Roy Johnson baseball card that sits in the dash of my car. So there's my Expos fandom.
Now you are,
and Vlad Guerrero Jr., of course, is playing for the Blue Jays.
You are somewhat nocturnal by nature.
Yes.
So staying up to 3 maybe isn't as big of a stretch for you.
Correct.
Or now that you have, rounded the 50 barrier, is it and kind of, in the distance, 60 is out there for you.
Excellent question. All it means is that then I take my 6 urine breaks before 3 a.m. while watching the game, as opposed to between 4 and 5 a.m. when I'm supposed to be sleeping. Right.
Okay. Very good.
Now, Greg mentioned that the Colts are the best team in the National Football League, at least by record. And I think that you could say, in terms of the offense, the defense, all areas of it, protecting the football is a big one, that they are, in fact, the best team. Now, there are those, Greg, that you look at. Kansas City would be one. We saw last night what Kansas City can do, and I think that we feel like Kansas City's starting to kind of turn up that wick a little bit. Buffalo, I think you always, just in the back of your mind, think about Buffalo. But if the Colts are doing so far what they have done through 8 games, they're going to be at home, and there's no reason to think, certainly offensively, they cannot keep pace with those two teams. The 2 big questions for you, Greg, would be this. Number 1, does Chris Ballard now, within the next week, make a deal to deliver, whether it be defensive backfield help or a pass rush, something to get to those quarterbacks and assist and bolster that area? And number 2, the schedule does, while it's not daunting per se, it has a little more challenge here in the second half than the first.
First of all, you can always tell when you're dealing with somebody that has a racing background, because I use this phrase too. When somebody says, turn up the wick, that's just a hint that there's a bit of auto racing in the
accelerator,
background.
right? Yeah.
Exactly. So, all right. To the point of your Chris Ballard question, I think the answer is yes. I think they will be active in the trade market. You have to consider, though, there's not exactly a lot of cap space available, so you got to be creative in terms of who you go out and get. Obviously, and frankly, Chris talked about this when he did his after training camp before the season press conference, when he said, hey, we're going to keep bringing guys in here, basically knowing there's a couple of 3 spots I'm not sure we're really set at. And you've seen that in terms of bringing in Jermaine Pratt, Mike Hilton, et cetera, in terms of bodies. I do think a trade will be in the offing. I would think it is likely to be for pass rush help more so than cornerback help, just because I think Chris feels they've got the guys, just a matter of getting them healthy. I think Jalen Jones is going to play this week.
I would agree with that, Greg. The one, and I'm not saying Chris Ballard wouldn't do this, don't get me wrong, but speaking just as a guy in general, the one thing that would be challenging if you go out and get pass rush help, which I do think is something they could use, but that is such an area that he has been so dialed in on, that there is a little bit, I think, of admitting, we fell short in a couple of areas here. And Liatu Latu, I think, is starting to show a little bit here, but you wanted more at this point. And same with Quiddy Pay. Quiddy Pay, I think, is fine.
Right.
But he's
solid,
kind of a
not
guy,
spectacular,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. And so that there is a little bit of waving of okay, we missed on a couple of guys. But I don't know that there's shame in that, because I think it's a difficult area. It's a difficult area to figure out.
Check your ego at the door. You are 7-1. You have the best record in the National Football League. I don't think it's about concern about admitting some sort of mistake. It's what can I do to give this team the best chance to take advantage of this amazing opportunity to potentially make it to a Super Bowl for the first time in 16 years. And again, I think everything is still sequential, for lack of a better term. First thing you do is win the AFC South. The Colts are 2.5 games up on that. They have not done that since 2014. The thing that then is connected to that is that they have not hosted a playoff game. So that's exact same year. That's goal number 1. That's looking likely. Goal number 2 is then to be the number 1 seed and have home field. But also now the way the playoffs work, you're the only team that gets an extra weekend off. You're the only team that gets a bye. And so trying to get to that. The last time that happened was also 2009. They made the Super Bowl. So those are things you're trying to accomplish.
Crazy as it sounds, the bye is the one thing that it feels like people get all dialed in on, and yet there are teams that every year we have this. Every year you have it where you go, were they better continuing to play? But nonetheless, by the way, we mentioned Hoagies and Hops. We mentioned Chili Water. Also, we normally have an array of beautiful banners here. Bailey & Wood, the presenting sponsor of this show. Bailey & Wood, which, of course, is based right here in Central Indiana, getting you the best home rates for your home mortgage rates. And in addition to that, giving back to the community. Normally we have that. Chateau Kitchens, which has done a fabulous job. They've done 472 different projects at Derek Schultz's house alone. And then IU Indy, we have the Jaguar up here. We have the Pom-Poms. We have so many different great sponsors of this program, and normally it adorns the set, and we're blaming Greg.
Yes, I will take 1,000% responsibility for this. Charlie is on graphics today. So, Charlie, this is normally the time of the show where I would type in story time with Uncle Jake or occasionally story time with Uncle Derek. You can go with Uncle Greg or Uncle Rake or Fat Guy, whatever you want to say. I am at fault for us not having any decor on the program, and here is why. Last Wednesday night, I have been, and you'll appreciate this phrase. Remember the old commercials, Wonder Indiana?
Yes.
From back in the 80s? Seemingly, I've been doing that a lot
Soon
this
to
week.
be replaced by Why Not Indiana, trademarked by yours truly, but go ahead.
Thank you. So yesterday I did North Central High School. You're welcome. To Lanesville High School, our two alma maters. Then to the Downtown Quarterback Club of Evansville. And then to Shallows in Greenwood for the UND Coaches Show. And then finally home. On Wednesday, I did something similar to that. I went up and back to South Bend to do a speaking gig to the Northern Indiana Conference for their fall banquet. On Wednesday morning.
I'd like to know what the Northern Indiana Conference is. Is this just a conference of people in Northern Indiana?
That would be 8 high schools.
Athletic Conference of Northern Indiana?
Well, they go by the Northern Indiana Conference.
Gotcha.
So that would be Penn.
I wanted to make sure we were
New
speaking
Prairie,
athletically.
South Bend Adams, South Bend Washington, South Bend Riley, Mishawaka Marion, South Bend St. Joe, and Elkhart.
Okay.
All 8 teams. So I was speaking at their fall banquet for their coaches and ADs and administrators, et cetera. But on the way, or kind of Wednesday morning, I'm starting to hear something funny coming out of the left front wheel of my car. And I go, that's not good. I got a lot of driving to do today. But I want to honor this gig. I don't feel any vibration. I think I'm okay. Made it up there fine. Made it back. Had to stop for gas just by the Grissom Aeroplex, by the way. And start to hear a little bit more. I'm like, all right, let's see if I can get this thing home. As I'm getting on the Kokomo bypass.
Oh, near the hip hugger.
That was going to be my shelter of last resort. It didn't make it that far.
That's right.
But all of a sudden, I'm like, am I in the rumble strip? So I fall asleep? No, I'm in the right lane. I think my assembly's about to go because I had just literally aired up the tires kind of preventatively on Wednesday morning. Nursed it to a gas station. As I get out of the car, wheels intact, tires intact. The wheel is tilting out.
Not good.
It's bowed out. And so I'm like, yeah, I'm not driving this thing any further. I now know what a lift costs to get from Kokomo to Indianapolis. The answer is $102. I know what it costs to have a car towed from Kokomo to Indianapolis.
AAA?
I do not have AAA.
AAA is your savior all the time.
Are they a sponsor of your radio program?
1-800-AAA+. I don't think they are anymore, actually. But
okay. Java House plugs are acceptable.
My parents every year give me AAA for Christmas.
Yeah, so well, have them give it to me for Christmas this year because I could have used it. And so anyway, long story short, finally got the car to my car dealer on Thursday. Because of my travel yesterday, I did not have time to go to the car dealership. I am heading there after the show. But unfortunately, all of the official show tchotchkes are still in my car. I went back to get my Colts credential. That was kind of important for me on Sunday. And a key fob, because I've got like 3 of those to get to different studios and buildings and jobs and things like that. I did not have time to get all of the show swag, and so I apologize.
I know the feeling because my car was just in the shop for not 1 but 2 months, right? And occasionally I'm like, oh man, I forgot that's in my car. But here's the thing: Greg learned this. Okay, what Greg learned is that, and we know this. A donut tire is perfectly sufficient to get you a couple of exits. If all of a sudden there's an issue and you got to put the donut tire on the car, no worries. You can get 2 or 3 exits on the donut tire. If you try to drive the donut tire all the way home, you understand why it's the donut and not the primary tire. That is the same situation that happens at quarterback in the National Football League. Your backup quarterback's a donut tire. If you want to go a game or 2, you can, no problem. But if you try to finish your year on the backup quarterback, you suddenly find out why it's the backup quarterback. That is the reason why, even though Jonathan Taylor is having one of the best years we've seen in Indianapolis as an NFL player, the most valuable player on this team is Daniel Jones. Not to say that if Anthony Richardson was healthy, he couldn't sustain some form of level. But in terms of what the Colts are doing right now, taking care of the football, moving the ball around, getting it versatile in terms of the way that they're distributing it, that comes down, Greg, to Daniel Jones. And if you look at Daniel Jones, if he were to not be available, and Riley Leonard now would be your backup quarterback, that's a donut tire. And so as a result of that, the discussion of who is the most valuable player, not just for the Colts, but in the National Football League, that guy right there, Daniel Jones, should be the representative, the nominee from Indianapolis for the reasons I just said.
That's all well and good. I still think it's Jonathan Taylor because what he is doing is so jaw-dropping. And I love analysts that have the proper historical context. We're not going back to the black and white days, but we're going back to the standard definition days. The season that Jonathan Taylor is having is reminiscent of what LaDainian Tomlinson did in 2006.
But
go ahead.
I get it. But what I'm saying to you is this, Greg. If you take, and I'm not taking anything away from Jonathan Taylor.
I get that.
Let me ask you this. If you take Jonathan Taylor out of the offense still clicks at what percent of what it's doing?
Probably 70 to 75%.
Okay. If you take Daniel Jones off the offense clicks at what percent?
Probably 50 to 55%.
And that's my point.
Yeah, I get you. But I would say this, what Jonathan is doing from a stat standpoint, because Daniel Jones, and I couldn't name the bank on the Colts postgame show because this was my different one. I can name it here because, again, it goes to your other job. I love the PNC Bank slogan of brilliantly boring.
Yes.
And I don't think they steer into having Scott Dixon driving the PNC car enough because that's Scott, right?
Right.
Brilliantly boring. He's the perfect spokesman for that. That's not criticizing Scott. He's great. He just gets the job done. That's kind of been Daniel Jones. Now, you saw me typing away here on the truth machine because I didn't have this stat committed to memory. Daniel Jones is 4th in the NFL in passing yards. That's really impressive. But it's almost his success is kind of boring because you almost know exactly what he's going to do every game. Like his stat line has basically been 20 for 30, 250 yards, 2 touchdowns, interception. And so I agree with the point you are making. But JT is so far ahead of the pack in terms of the amount of touchdowns he is scoring, the fact that he is averaging over 100 yards a game. I actually think to some degree in the MVP debate, it helps the fact that we haven't had a running back win the MVP in 13 years. It's been Adrian Peterson in 2012 was the last running back.
I just think, Greg, it comes down to this, and it's a semantics debate.
By the way, isn't this a wonderful place to be in as a Colts fan?
Totally.
Our biggest argument off the team is, hey, which of these two great players is the MVP in the league, not for the team?
It's a semantics debate,
right.
And it comes down to which one is the more outstanding player and which one is the more valuable player.
Right, I get that. Yeah.
It's kind of like, for example, if you are building a house, okay, and you have the banker that is taking all of your money and making it grow so that you can pay off the house, and then you have the guy that actually comes and paints it. The guy that paints it probably is the most outstanding performer because the house looks the best, but the banker is the more valuable of the two because he's the guy behind the scenes that's making it all happen. And to me, that's what Daniel Jones is, to your point, or brilliantly boring. By the way, with that PNC, you want to know my slogan for PNC?
Please.
I have no affiliation with PNC Bank other than
I do. I'm a
customer.
customer.
Group. I'm a customer as well.
Yep.
And I speak to them at the Speedway every year. I always thought this, when Scott Dixon driving the PNC Bank machine, in racing terms, as Greg mentioned earlier, at the end of a race when you can go all in on your fuel and use all of it to go faster, we call that you go full rich on your fuel, right? Yeah. Scott Dixon is the master at saving fuel over the course of a race. I've always thought they should tap into the fact that Scott Dixon, because he saves fuel, is able to go full rich later on, just like PNC helps you when it comes to saving your money to make you full rich at the end of the race.
If you would like to sponsor PNC or anybody else in the program, I'll give you, it's brilliantly boring, I will give you Jake's cell phone number because he makes that public, and you can call Jake, and then he will give the information to me, or email me, first name, last name @gmail.com.
You got to admit
that's well played.
That's
good job.
Full rich is not
that's
bad,
nice. Absolutely. I think you're going to call this car the penny pincher.
In terms of the Colts, Greg, I don't think Pittsburgh's a trap game by any stretch of the imagination. First off, I think Pittsburgh is one that they're a little bit enigmatic because you think to yourself that it's an intimidating place to play. It's a place where the Colts have not always played well. Aaron Rodgers is a guy with a huge resume and pedigree and everything else. But going into that game, knowing that you have then the trip to Germany and Atlanta, who's a bit of a tricky defense after that, then you go into the bye. So they have a wonderful opportunity here, I think, to finish on a pretty strong note before going into a late bye and then pushing in, because their schedule then, if there is challenge, I think the schedule after the bye, you've got San Francisco, you've got Seattle, and you got Kansas City. There are some tricky games in there. But the Pittsburgh game, I think, is one that at the beginning of the year you looked at and you thought that was going to be a real challenge for the Colts. I'm not so sure about that now.
Listen, if there was going to be a trap game, it was going to be Sunday. And I know we say divisional
yeah, it's
opponent.
the bye week, right?
This is the 14th time in the 24 years that the Colts and Titans have been in the same division that the Colts have swept the Tennessee Titans. 6-1 versus 1-6. I think the Colts, especially on offense, play a style that is almost trap-free. Because at the end of the day, you can almost look at the defense and go, we're going to hand the ball to this guy, and we're going to run behind that guy wearing number 56. Do something about it.
Right.
And eventually most teams can't. It's the one corollary I make between what the Indianapolis Colts are doing and what the Indiana Hoosiers are doing. At the end of the day, if you can just simply go, we are going to run the football. If things aren't working, we can beat you by simply grinding you down. That avoids that trap game. Your point about the Steelers game is well made. But I also think if you look at whom the Colts are playing the rest of the way, I'm not sure anybody would qualify as a trap game because everybody they're playing at least has 3 or 4 wins left on the schedule.
Greg, let me give you one of my bad analogies, and then I want you to tell me if it makes any sense whatsoever. Because sometimes I use this as a test before I go on my radio show.
Right.
So
we are your opening act for the radio show.
Right.
I get that, yes.
There are 2 kinds of cars. There's a Lamborghini, and then there's just a good, solid sedan, okay? Lamborghini in open traffic, it's fun to drive. You can do all kinds of stuff in it when you get in the open road. Everybody prefers a Lamborghini at its apex, right? But when there is a snowstorm, the sedan is the safer ride.
Sure.
It gets you through the
Volvo,
snow.
safe and boxy, yes.
Correct. The playoffs in the National Football League provide snowstorms. And while it is more fun and provides more highlight to drive a Lamborghini, the sedan is the steady that gets you through the race, and when the snowstorm comes, you have a better chance of getting through it in the sedan. Daniel Jones is the sedan. And yes, there's no question about the fact that when they're playing at their peak, Anthony Richardson is more the Ferrari or the Lamborghini. But Shane Steichen knew that to win in the National Football League, you've got to go with gets you the most consistency moving forward. And in particular, once all of a sudden everything changes and the conditions are more adverse, you need the sedan. And that's why Daniel Jones is where he is.
Think about one of my favorite Tony Dungy isms from his days of coaching the team, when he would say playoff games are often lost more than they are won. Again, the way the Colts play has been pretty close to perfect the first 8 games of the season.
When you look at the reason I say all that, Greg, is because, like, if you look last year at what Sam Darnold did in Minnesota, or oftentimes when you have quarterbacks, Joe Flacco in Cleveland, when you have quarterbacks that get this second lease on life, and then they get into the postseason, and then in the postseason, all of a sudden, the snow starts coming and things shut down. I just don't think that Daniel Jones is that guy. That's going to be the big question, though, is does this sustain into the postseason? Or, and I don't, because of your point, and maybe this leads credence to your Jonathan Taylor is their most valuable player, because of the fact that you have him there, but also Tyler Warren, I think, is a huge part of this. Josh Downs kind of floating around, Michael Pittman making plays. They have a wide array of balanced weapons for him to go to that leads me to believe they can sustain it.
The Colts have turned into a symphony at this point offensively because the pieces fit together so perfectly. You know exactly what Alec Pierce gives you. And Alec can run the mid-range routes and did a great job. His first catch was on an out during the course of the game, but he is the obvious deep threat. Pittman is what Andre Johnson was to the Texans in his heyday. He is the guy that no defender is going to out-physical him. He's going to get you 9 yards and a first down. You absolutely have to have it. Now, can he make bigger plays than that? Of course he can. But we rarely use the phrase physical or tough or rugged with a wide receiver. Talk about that with Michael Pittman Jr. Josh Downs, he's the Dave Matthews Band. He's the space between. He knows exactly where to find the nooks and crannies of a defense. Warren has been a revelation. I mean,
well, he softens everything for a defense.
Rarely.
Right? You got to always look where he is.
Have you looked at a draft and gone, that's exactly the guy the Indianapolis Colts have to have? And then A, you get that guy, and B, he hits every perfect note since he came to the team. The Colts last year had 38 catches from the tight end position the entirety of the season. Tyler Warren, through 8 games, has 37 catches. and he leads the NFL in reception yards by a tight end. Again, it's usually not, well, if we do this, it's all going to work out. Because that was what was being said about the Colts in the offseason, and it's exactly how it's crazy to think
so
that.
Michael
that simple.
Pittman is your base player, right?
Yep.
He's the big guy that you know is there. Once he starts getting it going, then all of a sudden you're aware of it. Josh Downs is the space between, like you mentioned,
Yep.
right? Obviously, Alec Pierce, the sound doesn't pierce, but he is able to create a music that you love. And then when it comes to, we talked about Pittman, and then A.D. Mitchell's in the pit, right? He's just the guy that's down in the pit.
80 seems to have understood the error of his ways. Because when he was interviewed last week and different stories written, he gets it.
Greg, I'll push back a little bit on that.
Okay.
I saw an interview with A.D. Mitchell. I wouldn't say he gets it. I would say that A.D. Mitchell sounded to me like he was broken. Yeah. Honestly, like he sounded to me like a guy that was like, I had my shot.
Well,
I blew it.
It's part of the reason why I frankly gave him some grace last year. Because as you looked at how the Colts were built, even last year when he struggled, it was, hey, listen, if Pierce, Pittman, and Downs are healthy, I'm not sure where A.D. Mitchell fits in.
Understood.
One of the things, and this is very complimentary of Chris Ballard is starting to take, and I'm sure other guys have done this, but the Bill Polian red shirt blueprint. And it's rare in the National Football League, but go back 20 years when you knew, hey, Peyton's getting X amount of money, and his skill position guys are getting X amount of money, and a couple of offensive linemen are getting big money, and Freeney and Mathers are getting big money. There's not enough to go around. We know that this linebacker, let's say Marcus Washington.
Yeah, I mean, 80% of their payroll was put into 12% of their lineup.
We know that you're a very good player. We can't afford to pay your next contract. We've drafted your replacement a year ago. He's been a special teamer this year. Freddie Keaho is going to take your spot. Marcus, we wish you well. Good luck in Washington. Good luck in your future endeavors. I think A.D. Mitchell is kind of that insurance piece for Michael Pittman Jr., who's out of contract at the end of next year, or for Alec Pierce, who's out of contract
Alec Pierce
this year.
Played his way.
Pierce has been so
You've
good.
got to have him, right?
I think now you have to acknowledge, all right, we need to keep him around.
But, Greg, when A.D. Mitchell came out of college, and I believe he was the 11th receiver selected in his year. Now, that wasn't deep because it was a receiver
middle of
heavy
the second
draft,
round,
right? But when he was available to Indianapolis, and I'm not saying that these things are always gospel, but what was the reason why allegedly A.D. Mitchell was bypassed by a lot of teams in the NFL? Because he was immature and showed a propensity to not always be completely focused in. Doesn't make him a bad guy. I was the same way at that age. I mean, honestly, doesn't make him a bad guy. But the reason why a lot of teams bypassed on him early is because there was thought that A.D. Mitchell needed time to figure some things out. And that has to happen before you're on the field. And unfortunately, it was errors on the field that hopefully now he's figured them out, but it might have been too late.
And frankly, Jay, I don't think it's too late because, again,
I'm saying it might be too late because his ass hadn't been on the field.
I get that.
They basically said to him, you're not getting back on the field.
At some point in time, the injury roulette wheel will spin.
No, I get that.
Towards the wide.
But I'm saying in terms of being part of the regular rotation.
Right. He's not in terms of the regular rotation this year. He may very well be next year as it relates to this season. At some point, we've already seen Pierce miss, 1 week? We've seen Downs miss a week. At some point, those things are going to happen.
But when Pierce missed time, who did they?
It was Ashton Doolin.
Right.
I'm just saying. The finger of destiny at some point will point towards him and go, all right, this guy's hurt, this guy's hurt. Here is your chance. Will he do something with it?
That's the question.
Because now, I do think we are to a point with him where if given an opportunity and doesn't do anything with it again,
correct.
Now we're having the conversation.
Right.
But on the depth chart currently, he is 5th of Indianapolis Colts receivers.
And he's behind Doolin.
Correct. Doolin's number 4.
And Doolin I love because Doolin just...
And you know exactly what to expect with Ashton Doolin.
Totally.
He'll figure it out.
Anytime that his number's called, he manages to be there,
You know that you are really good when you are in the fourth quarter, you're punting the football away, and they had the backup gunner in the game. They didn't want Doolin getting hurt late in the game, covering punts. Because the Colts rarely punt, but when they do, who is the guy that you see waiting for the kick returner when he makes a fair catch?
Right.
It's the guy wearing number 16.
Listen, I always say everybody, your group of buddies, wherever you are, you work, everybody needs an Ashton Doolin, right? I don't know the guy. I don't know him at all. But what I know is this. Every time for the last couple of years that he has been needed, no matter what the role is, okay. And he goes out and he does exactly what it is that, Ashton Doolin is the Aaron Nesmith of the Indianapolis Colts. Whatever it is that he needs to do, whatever role he needs to play, he seemingly just goes out and goes, okay, cool. That's what I need to do to win. Then I'm going to go out and do it.
Of your friend group, who is your Ashton Doolin?
I don't have many friends. That's the problem, Greg.
Is it Boo? Is that who it is? Is he your Ashton Doolin?
It's my cat Boo. Honestly, like you're probably one, right? Here you are filling in, right? Other days you're in the headset. Other days you're running around.
I'm a D2 guy, kind of like Ashton Doolin.
You're driving around all over the place. Yeah. I would say that my Ashton Doolin, I will go with Rob Lynch. Rob Lynch, who you know is ISC Sports Network. Rob Lynch is that guy that, at 11 o'clock at night, if I say, look, I need a ride to the airport, I had to have a colonoscopy. Rob Lynch is the guy that drove me there. There you go.
Do you think this will be a thing now that because of this show, people will start referring to their most reliable friends as their Ashton Doolin?
The guy that picks you up from your colonoscopy is your Ashton Doolin.
How do you know?
This is life at 50, baby.
How do you know you're from Indianapolis when you refer to your closest friends, your most reliable friends, as the guy that's the fourth receiver and the punt gunner?
Okay, what about
that's the guy?
What about the group of friends? What about the guy in your group of friends? We all have it, where everybody's like, God, I just love him, man. He's awesome. Like we've known each other forever, but he's just kind of never figured it out. Like what is he doing?
He's the A.D. Mitchell?
He's the A.D. Mitchell of the group, right?
Yeah,
I'm not going to say the name of it, but everybody that went to North Central knows who I'm talking about. The guy that you're just like, he's a great dude. But like, he was asking me last week if I want to come over because his parents are out of town. And I'm like, we're 53, right? You know what I mean? Like, what are we doing here?
Yep.
All right, we've got heroes to get to. Our Hoagies and Hops Hero of the Week. We will do that on the other side. Also, Chateau Kitchen's Buy It or Bull Schultz we have coming up. I guess we'll call it Buy It or Rake in this particular.
No, we still stick with Bull Schultz. All
right, we'll do that. Quick hits to get to, and Greg mentioned it. Are they, in fact, the number one team in the country? Not just the Big Ten, not the state of Indiana, but the country. Kurt Signetti's group and what he's doing. We'll get to that as well. It is Query and Schultz from Hoagies and Hops and Chili Water here at 42nd and Boulevard?
42nd and Boulevard.
42nd and Boulevard. We will return here on the ISC Sports Network.
Nice snap.
Mortgage is a snap. Duh.
Bailey and Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
Hey, AC.
Nice snap.
Mortgage is a snap. Duh.
Bailey and Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
We are back here at Hoagies and Hops at 42nd and Boulevard. It is time for our Hoagies and Hops Hero of the Week. And Greg, Christina hooked it up big time here, right? Big time at Hoagies and Hops. And by the way, bring by between now and Sunday, you come into Hoagies and Hops, you get bring a can good, you're going to get 25% off. And here we go now.
This is not a can good, by the way. It's good and it's in a can. You don't need to bring in beer. Absolutely.
This is the Dr. Feelgood. And I know because Derek's not here, I do know that Motley Crue did Dr. Feelgood, right?
That's a shtick.
It is not Van Halen.
He's not that dumb.
Have you seen David Lee Roth performing lately?
I have not, no.
Yeah, okay.
No.
He's no longer Dr. Feelgood, even though that was a different band.
Yeah, like Dr. Hipcheck. Here's what I'm so fired up about. Well, we're going to give you a little inside baseball on the program today. Again, we tape this. It is currently 9:58. In the morning as we are talking, even though you're watching us somewhere in the vicinity of 8 o'clock at night. And Jake and Derek, I'm going to go long here, so you can eat half of that while I am doing this. Jake and Derek will do a wonderful job, and they do really enjoy the beer, but at the same time, they have real jobs. Derek has one. Jake really doesn't. We get paid to go to ball games and talk into microphones for a living and things like that. I got a long one. You enjoy this one. And so they will have a sip or two of whatever our fine selection from chili water is during the course of the day. When we were doing this in the studio, literally after the couple of drinks, they would then walk outside of the studio and pour one out for their dead homies in the studio. We don't do that here at 42nd and Boulevard. The reason I bring this up is that once it takes a long time to tear down all of the gear that we set up for this program. And by a long time, I mean 7 or 8 good minutes And then we're the first customers now every Tuesday. You want to hang with the ISC Sports Network crew? Get here at 11 a.m. when the store officially opens on Tuesday. Our order is normally taken about 10:45 or 10:50. Now, they serve Coke products here, and I'm a big fan of Cherry Coke, Mellow Yellow.
Keep going. I'm halfway done.
Absolutely. Oh, again, it's going to take a minute. But today, my beverage has been handed to me at 9:58. Now, I have other responsibilities during the course of the day. We've got more shows to produce on the ISC Sports Network. But my beverage that will go with my lunch, which will half of it is here, I'm sure I'll order another sandwich at 11 o'clock, will be the Hazy IPA, the Dr. Feelgood from Chili Water Brewing Company. And I'm trying to time out the end of my soliloquy with Jake inhaling at least one more bite of his chili cheese Coney, or apparently I'm going to keep talking for him to have a second bite. So now the floor is yours. I will dig in, and I'm sure this will be spilled all over the gear, my clothing, etc. I'm going to look like a fool for the remainder of the show. How'd you like it?
You need the help from this for the look like a fool.
Right. No, it comes days in and then why for me. I get that.
Listen, everything here at Hoagies and Hops is fabulous, right? Because Christina and her group, I mean, whether we're talking about the Zaire, which we had, my buddy Rob Whitaker goes, did you say the Zaire is your number one? It is my number one.
I've been selling the Zaire all week, by the way. Yeah, big time.
So good, right? Everything here is great, but the Coney sauce on that is unbelievable. Then you mix in the cheese as well.
Right.
And the Hazy IPA goes without saying from Chili Water. Chili Water is fabulous. They have 2 locations down in Fountain Square, right here at 42nd and Boulevard as well. The Hazy IPA, Greg mentioned it.
By the way, I realize I kind of know my limitations in life. Schultz doesn't mind the fact that he's a sloppy human being and a messy eater. I know that I am with this. I literally think I'm going to try to inhale as much of this in a 30-second commercial break and just sit here and stare at it until then.
You know,
because disaster
get it on camera so people can see how it looks.
Disaster would ensue.
Listen, our hero of the week brought to you by everybody here at Hoagies and Hops. I'm going to go with this one, Greg, a little bit off the beaten path.
Okay.
And yes, I mean, obviously, if we're talking sports from a national standpoint, it is impossible to not say Shohei Ohtani would be your hero of the week, especially with what he's doing in the World Series, which is unprecedented. But, and yes, you could say certainly that down in Bloomington, there is a Heisman frontrunner in Mendoza, their quarterback, who is playing like Daniel Jones, taking care of the football, moving the ball around. Elijah Surratt continues to be just an absolute, maybe the best receiver in the country, at least in terms of production on the field in college football. But over the weekend, I was thinking about this, and then yesterday someone asked me about what player on the Colts roster is credited with doing their job in facilitating for this start that is not getting enough credit. And when I think about Daniel Jones and I think about Jonathan Taylor and everybody else we just mentioned, what we have not mentioned is not a hero, but rather a heroic effort from a group, and that is the Colts offensive line.
Yep.
We have talked ad nauseum for the last couple of years about the offensive line and about it being porous and about them putting in resource at the guard position, which is the one position in the NFL that it was like, yeah, I mean, that's where you like hide somebody if you just want somebody, you know, it's not as effective a position. Quentin Nelson pulling Taylor Bortolini and his playing at the center position, which was something that he had to get used to, and I think did so remarkably well, where we didn't talk about it a whole lot. Braden Smith coming back. Obviously, Bernard Ryman playing on the left side as well. Goncalves. They have, Greg, this group as a unit has meshed together. They played well. And I've always said, you know, offensive linemen are a lot like rookies in the Indy 500. The less you talk about them, the better that means they're doing. And this group has not been heralded. It has not been nationally praised. There has not, Quentin Nelson, sure, but they are playing so well right now, and they deserve all the credit in the world. The Colts offensive line as a group, hero of the week.
A great selection. I am going to stay local. I'm going to go maybe slightly more obvious, but again, as you can tell, I'm a big fan of having like math to kind of back things up from a stat standpoint. Pat Forty, great writer. Obviously read him growing up in Louisville. Had the math on the job that Kurt Cignetti is doing and his win percentage and just how otherworldly that has been. Indiana is, you documented this in the bad days a couple of years ago, being the losingest major college football program. In terms of win percentage, it's actually second worst in terms of the 4 major conferences in Notre Dame. Do you know the school that has a worse career winning percentage.
Well, I know
more
the
so
school
than
that
Indiana.
has more losses because they are 3 ahead of Indiana right now. And
Yep.
if they lose 3 or 4 here and Indiana wins out in the regular season, then they'll take back over the crown. I will say Northwestern.
It's not Northwestern.
Okay, then based on that, let me ask you: is this a school that's having a good year?
I honestly don't know.
By percentage, you're saying the
In other words, like Indiana as a school's
Correct.
winning percentage is like 424 all time.
give me the league.
They're in the ACC.
My first guess then would be I'll go with Duke.
No,
Okay, go ahead.
it's Wake Forest.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway,
Jim Caldwell, baby.
just to give you an idea, so like Kurt Cignetti's win percentage is like the greatest win percentage ever in Indiana by like a mile. And so reading that yesterday kind of got me thinking about this. It's got to be Kurt Cignetti. I mean, everybody expected some form of regression after how out of the park we thought last year was going to
Right.
be for this football team. And it was almost going into the season, all right, is 8 wins good enough? Is 9 wins good enough? Yeah, we've surpassed celebrating it to 6 wins and getting to a bowl game. They can't compete for a national championship, or shouldn't say even national championship. They can't compete for a college football playoff spot for a second year in a row, right? No, they're significantly
And
better.
myself included, what do we all say? Well, this year it gets real because they got to go to Oregon and Penn State. Well, they went to Oregon already and took care of that. And Penn State has now been, their season is in a spiral I can't imagine. It's still a tough place to play, but nonetheless, you would think that Indiana at this point, what they do, Greg, to me that is so impressive. Indiana, and it is interesting to note that when you talk about Indiana football, it is a lot like the Colts. I mean, the story of these two teams and the way that they're winning are such an almost mirror of one another. And by that, I mean they're going out in games, they're getting a lead, and then they're just pouring it on. And they literally, you're up 7, you go to the restroom, you come back, they're up 14.
Right.
You get a Coke, you come back, they're up 17, and they just stay with it with consistency throughout the course of the game, and they're protecting the football. Indiana's doing the same. Indiana, to me, reminds me, Greg, under Kurt Cignetti, and I know this is a bad comparison probably because it's apples and oranges literally, but when Brad Stevens was the head basketball coach at Butler, and you would watch Butler go up against in games where people are like, well, the road ends here for Butler. And there'd be a loose ball that would carry him off the back iron. And Matt Howard was right there in the right spot before everybody else. And then a team would try to make an offensive set and rotate the ball, and Butler's defense was right there. And it was like, these guys know where the ball is bouncing and where everything is happening before it happens. That's what Indiana football looks like. They are so well prepared. They are where they need to be at all times. They fly to the football on defense. They find open lanes and open creases on offense. They put the ball exactly where it needs to be in their passing game. It is incredible the technicality with which they play and the clinical nature in which Indiana is eviscerating people. Now, Ohio State's defense is unbelievable, no question about it. But Indiana right now has the best win in the country by winning at Oregon.
Yep.
And to me, right now, in late October, the Indiana Hoosiers are the best team in college football. They have the best resume, and they should be number 1 in the college football rankings when it comes out. It's probably going to be Ohio State, and I get it. They're going to face each other most likely in the Big Ten title game here in Indianapolis, and Ohio State is going to win that game. And then Indiana's going to come back and beat them in the national championship.
So here is some things I'll throw at you. Jake, do you have an idea what the Big Ten record is of IU's combined 4 opponents left in the month of November?
Okay, of the 4 left, they've got Maryland, they've
Correct.
got Purdue, they've got Penn State, and they've got, I got to think of who the 4th is. Who am I missing on the
Wisconsin.
4th? Wisconsin.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to say that Maryland in the Big Ten right now is 4-1.
No. Maryland has 1 Big Ten win.
Okay, so based on that,
Maryland
then,
is 1-3 in the league.
so I'm going to say there are 4 wins representative amongst the 4 teams.
Well, overall, maybe there are. In Big Ten,
Big Ten
play
thing.
only, Indiana's opponents are 1-17.
Okay. Yeah, I would have thought each one of
1-17.
them had a win.
No. There are 4 winless teams in the Big Ten this year. Michigan State, whom Indiana's already beaten, is
Right.
one of them. The other 3 are the last 3 teams that Indiana plays on their schedule.
Yeah,
Penn State, Purdue, and Wisconsin.
But you go to Maryland, right?
Go to
And
Maryland.
you go to Penn
Maryland
State.
is literally the toughest game left on Indiana's regular season schedule, knowing Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game, knowing college football playoff, things will change that. And let's throw out the obvious here again. Penn State, you've had the right word, spiraling. You know how many times Indiana has won in Happy Valley? 0.
Now,
0. Never happened.
let me ask you this, Greg.
You know how many times Indiana has won in front of other human beings against Penn State? 1. The last time they beat them was the Michael Penix
that play didn't
pylon game.
That was not he was out, by the way. Let me ask you this. And I don't know the answer to this, so I'm asking you almost rhetorically. My buddy Pat Dyer asked me this question, and I said, Pat Dyer, you should be the hero of the week. That is a fabulous question. When is the last time, if ever, that 2 coaches that began the year ranked in the preseason top 10 were both fired midseason?
I'm sure it's never happened.
I honestly.
Right. General Beauregard Kelly, the last to go as of Monday.
And when you look at James Franklin, LSU, I think, still is going to be able to go out and, that's a big-time program for sure. But I look at Penn State and James Franklin, Greg, and I think to myself, is that really the job that it once was?
There's only 2 or 3 places that can be the head of the table in an 18-team league. Remarkably, Indiana seems to be one of them, which
I know.
none of us ever thought
but it's
would be the case.
Perfect storm for Indiana because Indiana was ahead of the game in terms of just figuring out portal, NIL, etc. The opportunity was there for someone to, at Kings Island, line jumping is not a sport. Okay? But in college football, it was made a sport a couple of years ago, and Indiana is the one that saw it coming and got themselves to the front of the line. But there's only room for like one of them to wedge their way in, and Indiana's already done it.
The other heads of the table can be Oregon, Ohio State, and Michigan. And I'm not sure. So I think Wisconsin's in the exact same boat as Penn State.
Totally agree
Where
with
Wisconsin, and again, Indiana's going to face a Wisconsin team. If you're of a certain age, you forget that in the 80s, Wisconsin was equivalent of Northwestern.
Totally.
That is where you had a good time in
that
Madison.
Was your freebie two-step,
that's
right?
where you got a W, was against Wisconsin. And that has rarely been the case for the last 30 years. It's kind of the case now, but it's, again, and maybe it's not this case in college football. It's always been this way, since they always, but it's been that way in the National Football League, where we look at a schedule in August and predict wins and go, that's a tough game, that's a tough game. And we get to October, November, and like, maybe that game's not so tough anymore. Again, Indiana, they're 4 games in November. Their combined record of Big Ten play is 1-17. Indiana's going to the Big Ten championship.
I mean, you would assume. Now, again, and part of that, Greg, is because just the way that they're coached and the way they perform, Indiana doesn't stub their toe and they don't overlook people, right? I mean, there are teams that you could look at in the past and say, hey, maybe it's a trap game to go to Penn State. Maybe it's a trap game to go to Maryland. This group just does not seem the way that he has them dialed in and focused. Look no further than the UCLA game where Signetti's talking them up like they're going up against the 85 Bears, and then they go out and they just absolutely took their will.
UCLA had won 3 games in a row.
Yeah.
I'm not sure they're great, but they had won 3
they
games
were competent,
in a row.
Right?
And Indiana scored on defense in the second play, and Kurt Signetti's talking about in pregame about, hey, watch for a fake punt. What happens on the second drive of the game? I mean, my goodness, the run they're on is amazing.
Now, you mentioned the Big Ten title game in football, right?
Yes.
That is going to be December the 6th at Lucas Oil Stadium. Indiana playing Louisville that same day. But that's 1 month after the other big event that's taking place when it comes to college basketball here in Central Indiana. I'm talking about November 6th. It is the IU Indy Jags home opener, okay? And that takes us to the Jags report at IU Indy right there. Just west of downtown Indianapolis, Division I athletics, Division I athletes, local athletes, and Greg, so good in so many different areas for the Jags report. And we'll get to basketball in a minute, okay? Because I'm looking forward to, and I think I'm going to be there. I'm looking at it, but I really want to be there for the home opener in the Jungle for men's basketball because, Greg, they're going to be fun to watch this year.
I feel bad that I won't be there for the home opener. It's one of the 2 games I miss. The Horizon League has me on soccer duty that day. So, yes, Jaguars open at Ohio State on November the 3rd. They play host to Long Island, 6:30 inside of the Jungle, iuindyjags.com/tickets for more information. And, yes, Billy Tubbs used to use the phrase hang 100. Ben Hallett's teams are looking for 120 or more. the system, as it will be called.
Okay, you mentioned soccer. Let's begin there with our Jags report. Men's soccer beat Detroit Mercy 2-1 on Senior Day. How about that, getting a Senior Day win? Jose Antonio Herrera and Stan Claver both had goals in that game, and Cameron Mau with 3 big saves in net as the men's soccer program has their home finale Halloween. 2 o'clock. Come in costume if you'd want, but just make sure that your costume does not mask the fact that you are a fan of IU, Indy, and the Jag soccer. 2 o'clock, Michael Carroll Stadium, the home finale for the men's side. On the women's side, they did get a draw at Oakland 2-2, picked up a point there. Annika Gunter and Shannon Phillips, the freshman, by the way, Shannon Phillips, each with the goal, and Emma Fry had both of those assists, Greg, for the women's standpoint. Now, Wednesday, coming up tomorrow night, 7 o'clock against Purdue Fort Wayne. It is Breast Cancer Awareness Night at Michael Carroll Stadium for the women's side of things. First 100 fans will get a pink rally towel for IU, Indy, and the Jags. And, of course, raising awareness for breast cancer awareness. And everybody is going to be wearing their pink kits, by the way.
Would you like some detail on this, since you're sitting next to somebody that often is on the call of the games that you're chatting with?
Have at.
All right, so the IU Indy winning against Detroit Mercy on Saturday was the first goal in the run of play for Sid Van Drunen's team since September the 16th. They have been going through a bit of an offensive drought. They are just outside of the playoff line. They're 2 points back with 2 matches left to go. And then in terms of the women's match, the IU Indy women have 1 match left to play. They have to win and get some help to qualify for the playoffs for the first time under the leadership of Angela Berry White. Jake has gotten himself a prop that we can use for the next part of the Jack.
You know what? Angela Berry White, of course, her husband, Eddie White, for the Pacers. I have right before me here a broom, not to sweep up all the names that Eddie typically drops, but rather
There's not
simply,
a broom big enough for that, Jake.
There is not, nor a dustpan. Rather simply, do you know why I have the broom? Would you like to guess why I have the broom?
Because the IU Indy volleyball team's been using that all season long.
They have the most sweeps in program history. How about it? Let's get a hand for the IU Indy volleyball team. Most sweeps in program history. They swept Oakland. 3-love. And Grace Purica had her 3,000. This is impressive. 3,000 career assists.
And
that
she's got a year left to go, by the way.
Program history.
She's only a junior, so she'll have that record by the end of next year.
Tonight, taking on Purdue Fort Wayne, and then on the road until November 14th and 15th, when I'm actually going to be on the road, unfortunately. But the volleyball team back in action at IU Indy November 14th and the 15th. And then we mentioned, Greg, basketball season is back. You mentioned Ben Howlett's group and what their schedule is starting out at Ohio State. And then the home opener, November 6th against LIU. Big one coming up, by the way, on December the 11th. We will have more on that coming up in the next couple of weeks. And the women host Indiana State, 6:30 in the Jungle. Do we have the date on that, by the way?
For the IU Indy women's game against Indiana State.
That is correct.
That is the opening day of the season. That is next Monday, November the 3rd. And
November 3rd.
I know the Jaguars are playing Green Bay on December the 11th. I'll have the call of that game. Now you have my attention as to why that's such an important date. Professional radio tease.
They just told me. No, December 11th. Mark your calendar. It's
I'll
gonna
be
a
there.
Big one.
It's a Thursday.
I'm going to guess that I'm going to be there, too. That's not why it's going to be a big date, though.
Right. Doug Gottlieb will be in the house with Green Bay. Jaguars swept the Phoenix last year.
A lot of people swept the Phoenix.
Yes,
last year,
they
though, right?
did.
I'm interested about Doug Gottlieb and what happens there, because there was obviously – there goes our broom.
Right.
There was – Gottlieb obviously is somebody that and I understand it, from the Horizon League, brought a lot of attention to the league, which is good, right? And we talked to him, before the season began. I like Doug Gottlieb.
Me too.
But it was a struggle last year for them.
Doug Gottlieb once got me a free pizza. It was great.
Really?
So in Doug's days of doing the evening show on ESPN Radio, leading into Super Bowl 41, he had myself, and I forget whether it was Waddle or Silverman from ESPN 1000. If the Colts had won, or the Colts did win, I got a freeze-dried pizza shipped to me from Gino's East. If the other way, I would have sent shrimp cocktail the way of Chicago, given we all knew the Colts were going to win that Super Bowl. I remember literally getting back from an IUPUI road trip, and there's this crate in front of my door and it's from Chicago, and it's pizza.
Of course, if it was frozen,
glorious.
they'd just leave it on the porch if it was in the middle of February.
It was February. It was just fine. No problem.
Of course, that means that you had to take the pizza in and you had to do it in your kitchen. And if you want your kitchen to look the best that it can be, then Chateau Kitchens is the place to go. They also sponsor our Buy It or Bull Schultz. We'll call it Buy It or Rake in this situation because Derek is where is Derek, by the way?
He has been dispatched for work duty. He's got this couple swingers thing that he's going on in early December. Something he got through his church, through St. Thomas Aquinas.
Is there pineapples involved?
White rocks, I think, are involved, actually.
All right, we'll come back. Chateau Kitchens, Buy It or Bull Schultz. We will come up with a couple of situations. I'll mention them to Greg or vice versa, and we will say whether we buy it or we find it to be Bull Schultz. We'll do it on the other side. When we come back here to Query and Schultz, you're watching it on the ISC Sports Network.
At Bailey and Wood, we
I'm sorry.
Oh, my.
Sorry.
What was supposed to do there? I mean, like,
Vince
a little
hung
heads
us
up,
out
right?
to dry.
Seriously.
No, I mean, like, we're trying to cram as much. So I got that much done of the cheese coney.
It is
And
fabulous.
it
by the way.
failed, Vince. Vince is talking. You can't hear him. I can't.
It is time for Chateau Kitchens, Buy It or Bull Schultz here on the Query and Schultz program on ISC Sports Network. You know the drill. We make a statement. The other one says whether they buy it or whether they consider it to be bull. Greg, would you like to go first or would you like me to do so?
You go ahead and serve first. I'll receive.
We'll begin with this. For the first time in program history, even though they have been very close in the past, notably Antoine Rainalel and Anthony Thompson come to mind. Anthony Thompson should have won in 1989 when Andre Ware did, but I digress. For the first time in program history, the Heisman Trophy will end up in Bloomington, Indiana, with Fernando Mendoza.
All right, let's. Who are the other candidates you think he is competing with? Simpson from Alabama.
I would say, yeah. Here's the thing: there's always a late push. Somebody, right? I mean, you know what I mean. Somebody that at the last month of the year puts together some massive thing.
And help me out. The Heisman is the weekend after the Big Ten championship.
This is always the age-old question of do they factor in when the voting is done. The voting, I believe, is done before the playoffs, so that comes into play as well.
I will say Bull Schultz. I don't think Mendoza's the Heisman Trophy winner. I think he'll be one of the finalists. I do think he is in play to be the number one pick in the draft.
I think he will. I think at this point he may well be because he's 6'5". That is a big part of it too, right? I mean, his size, his touch, all of it. He's done it at multiple places. The only thing I will say, and it doesn't matter because he's going to play in the NFL. And I mean this as no disrespect to Kurt Signetti, Bloomington, Indiana, where I have a degree. But there is part of me deep down that's like, would you really punt on a degree from the University of California for one from IU? California, Berkeley is one of the top 10 most prestigious schools in the country. Am I the only one that thinks this way?
He will go back and get his degree from California or IU at some point in time down the road.
But I would want it from Berkeley, right? I would go back and get it from Berkeley.
I think you are well-suited to have a degree from either institution. Berkeley's tremendous, don't get me wrong, but Bloomington's not bad.
It's not bad.
Don't let the fact that you and Derek have degrees from IU, bring you down.
I'm saying,
and isn't it nice that you can now say, I have a degree from Indiana University?
Greg, I can't tell you how much it's changed my life. But yes, there's a security in that feeling.
My dad, God rest his soul, I went through graduation at UIndy with an asterisk next to my name because I literally took the job at $12.60 a month before I graduated. I had to go back and take 8 hours in the summer. I did complete those hours. That was 6 hours of introduction to radio engineering and 2 hours of CPR. And by God, I got my degree 3 months later. But my dad, I literally occasionally, and Dad's been gone for 12 years, I would have to sometimes go get my degree and go, here. I went back and completed my education, Dad.
Trust me, I know the drill. Trust me, right? All right, question number 2. The Indiana Pacers have gotten off to a start here, and it is mostly injury, albeit. But off to an 0-3 start. Mac McClung, now the dunk champion, is going to be on the roster. He will be, Greg, if you can tell me this, I will be highly impressed, okay? Can you tell me Indiana Pacer players that have won, that wild members of the Indiana Pacers won the dunk contest?
Darnell Hillman, the unofficial dunk contest. Fred Jones won the dunk contest. Am I missing anybody else?
You are, and it's the easiest one to forget. No offense to him. I'm just saying.
Terrence Stansbury
Terrence
never
Stansbury was in the
was in it. Was in the
Statue of
legendary
Liberty dunk. He got
at
robbed.
85. Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, this player is, I hate to say this, because he was a good player. He actually turned into a really nice player for the Pacers, played a couple of years and had a cup of coffee in the NBA. But this player probably is more noted because his father is a bigger name within the lore of Indiana high school basketball.
Oh, my goodness.
This player played at Michigan despite the fact that his father played at Purdue and was the number one selection in the draft.
TR3.
Yep.
Yeah.
Glenn Robinson III.
Yeah.
But my
Did he
Biter
dunk
Bullshultz
contest with the
question.
Pacers?
He did.
Wow.
My question for you is this. The Indiana Pacers, off to a slow start at 0-3, but again, that's based a lot on injury, will not make the playoffs this year.
That was literally going to be the question I was going to ask you. And there is this scary vibe coming from that team that it's just one of those years that is out of your hands. I think all of us were optimistic as to what this group could be, even without Tyrese Halliburton, because if your point guard combination is Andrew Nembhard and TJ McConnell, you can win some games with that. And I think all of us now see what the absence of Miles Turner, whether we like Miles or not, given how he handled his departure from this team, you see exactly how big of a void that is leaving with this team. But you take away Nembhard, you take away McConnell, then Obi Toppin gets hurt. Benedict Mathurin, who looked great the first two games, gets hurt. At some point in time, you reach a tipping point, and you can't overcome
I mean,
that.
Talon Peters hurt. I mean, the depth, right, all the way across the board.
When the Pacers put together their social media graphic after game number 2, maybe it's actually game number 3 in Minnesota, the 3 players on the graphic were Ben Shepherd, Ray J. Dennis, and Quentin Jackson. And my guess would be most Pacers fans would not know who the guys wearing number 10 and number 29
No question.
that were in that graphic. I worry they're just going to crash and burn and miss the playoffs. But again, if it's because of injuries, they'll get a free pass because it's so early. And they were 10-15 to start last year. But you just got that feeling that the pendulum, at least for this season, is going to swing
Greg,
the other way.
For my last one, I want you to do this.
Okay.
I want you to close your eyes.
Okay.
You're closing your eyes.
Yep. Is my Coney still there?
It is.
Is my beer still there?
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you.
But you're thinking about some 15, 16 months from now.
Yes.
Tyrese Halliburton is on the floor. Aaron Nesmith is on the floor.
Yes.
Andrew Nembhard is on the floor. Pascal Siakam's on the floor. Jarris Walker is there. Ben Mathurin, what remains to be seen.
I would think Ben's playing someplace else.
Obi Toppin is a Pacer.
Hope so.
The starting center for the Pacers in the situation where they are the number 1 seed in the East, trying to replicate what happened a year ago. In this scenario, with your eyes closed, the starting center for the Pacers in that game is a member of the Indiana Pacers right now in this scenario. Biter Bullshultz.
That would be Bullshultz. I'll bring in somebody else.
Yeah, I would agree.
They tried to patchwork it as best they could, but it's
very
not there.
early on. But so far, it's 3 games. I get it, right? James Weissman now has been released. My concern, and it's very early, my concern is this. I love Isaiah Jackson. And when Isaiah Jackson, before he got hurt, I loved his spring. I loved his energy. I loved a lot of things about him. But it's only been 3 games, so it's almost absurd for me to make this comparison. But he's coming off of an Achilles injury. And it seems as though in the early returns, he is not the same player from an athletic standpoint and a maneuverability standpoint as he was prior to the injury. Now, that may come to pass, right? It gives me concern. That's what happens is you get back 90%, let's say, of what you had before. And in Tyrese Halliburton's case, that's the injury he's coming off of. But more so between Isaiah Jackson and now Jay Huff, it does not look to me like you have the person that is, as I said with Miles Turner, that offensive sprinkler that everything runs through, that offense is so predicated upon going into and then just spitting the ball around and then being able to hit a 3. I think that player is somewhere else right now.
I would think that either that's a veteran you go out and get, or if things go bad enough this year, that is somebody you get in the draft lottery, if that's the way the Pacers are.
Yeah, and we'll see if that's where they're drafting, right?
Yeah.
We'll come back. We'll put a tie on all of it. We'll do a couple of quick hits, a couple of notes, and we will send you on about the way here on this Tuesday edition. Greg Rakestraw in for Derek. It is Query and Schultz, and you're watching it on the ISC Sports Network.
Hey, AC.
Nice snap.
Morgan did a snap. Duh.
Bailey and Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
Hey, AC.
Nice snap.
Morgan did a snap. Duh.
Bailey and Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
Back here from Hoagies and Hops, Chili Water, 42nd and Boulevard. Jake Query along with Greg Rakestraw. It is Query and Schultz here on the ISC Sports Network. Typically, we do here our quick hits, kind of overlooking things that are taking place. Let's begin with this, Greg. We touched on it earlier, and we're taping this on Tuesday morning. But to me, the World Series, I hate to say it's over in the World Series, but, man, that Dodgers, the lineup is just so stacked. I mean, you had a feeling in an unbelievable, historic Game 3 of going, the 18 innings that they went. But you just had a feeling the entire time it was a matter of time before the Dodgers were going to get things going. And in addition to that, the Blue Jays had ample opportunity, but they got overly aggressive on the base paths. But the reason that is because the Dodgers and their firepower, and, once you get to that bullpen, you got a chance. But the Blue Jays were aggressive because they knew they needed to get a run because you never know when that offense is going to get going.
Couple of things that to point out. First of all, the winning pitcher for the Dodgers last night or this morning from Bloomington North High School, Will Klein. Congratulations to him. Secondarily, do I think the Dodgers being this good is good for baseball? No. At the same time, we can't get the populace to agree on anything these days. But I think everybody agrees the best baseball player perhaps of all time is Shohei Ohtani.
It's unbelievable.
That every night there is some sort of stat. And again, he hits a home run last night. Say this like Ferris Bueller. He reached base 9 times in one game. He was intentionally walked 4 times in the last 9 innings and should have been walked a 5th or we wouldn't be having this conversation. As you touched on, again, I want to see the Jays win for a lot of reasons. But Shohei Ohtani is the greatest thing going in sports right now.
I'm going to, again, point out what, I mentioned on social media, and I think I might have mentioned on the top of the show. We're going to, again, ask you to close your eyes here, okay?
My Coney's already gone, so I'm good.
I want you to envision, while your eyes are closed, I want you to envision a World Series game in extra innings where you are on the mound and the bases are loaded.
Yeah.
Obviously, if it's in extra innings, it's a tie game.
Yes.
That is the only scenario where you pitch to Shohei Ohtani.
Right.
That's it. You take your chances on getting it out.
Right.
Other than that, there is zero chance that or reason that you pitch to this guy. He in 7 at-bats in the World Series, his last 7 true at-bats, 5 home runs, 2 doubles. There is no reason that guy should see any pitch.
Just as he's walking the plate, just point. Just go, hey, go straight to first.
I mean, that's basically what they do, right?
Right.
Unbelievable.
Again, the rest of their roster is really good. They're not that guy. They're human. Make them do something.
I mean, unbelievable. And by the way, one other note. When they do what we call the wide shot here at Hoagies and Hops, you see the jersey behind me of Stacey Turan, legendary.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Stacey Turan obviously went into the NFL, was tragically lost in a fatal car accident while a member of the Raiders. But Stacey Turan's shot in the 1980 Final Four for Broderpool in the semifinals, the half-court shot that he hit to force and lift Broderpool into the title game, one of the legendary shots in Indiana. That team, that Broderpool team of 1980, Bill Smith, the head coach, my buddy Maurice Womack, the late Maurice Womack that was on that team, as well as Stacey Turan. Legendary player, and that's one of the things I love about Hoagies and Hops. Here Christina comes from Philly, and yet the intermix, if you will, the marriage between the lore of Central Indiana sports and as well the lore of Philadelphia sports. Stacey Turan jersey, I always thought that was cool hanging on the wall.
I'm glad that you pointed that out. Absolutely.
It is very cool.
Love when we have that in the background.
So Derek is back next week, is that right?
Unfortunately, yes.
What about your tire? Is it going to be
My tire is ready. It was ready to be picked up. So we'll actually have the
Greg's
proper
driving the
gear.
grocery cart you get at Kroger. Yeah, on the front left, right?
I seriously thought, I'm like, if I got that a mile and a half on the thing, I'm stunned that I got that far.
Well, we're glad that you made it back, and we'll have the props. Again, a reminder, November 6th, men's basketball opener for IU Indy, the third for women, right?
Correct.
The third for women. All right, we will be back with you next Tuesday from here at Hoagies and Hops. Chili water, also the very best right here, the Dr. Feelgood, and it is fantastic. We'll talk to you again next Tuesday. Thanks for watching Query and Schultz. You've been watching it here on the ISC Sports Network.
At Bailey & Wood, we